Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Limbus Company video. Today we're going to be using the LCE to suppress a couple of abnormalities. And as a way to sort of, imitate how they would actually work in canon. Well, technically not canon, because Gregor would not be wearing his Big Bird Ego gear if it was just a normal day, but that's beside the point. I wanted to use these characters, partially because I wanted to just, play around with Big Bird Gregor a little bit more, but also partially because I wanted to check and see if they, specifically if Gregor and Yisong had some kind of unique dialogue line that they share if they're using the same team together. Much like how, Horse Yisong and Gia Ishmael, how Yisong has a unique dialogue line that he says if you use them in the same team together. And turns out, yeah, they do not have a unique dialogue line. Which is very unfortunate, because it would have just been cool, Add a little bit of extra flavor. I mean, the whole reason why Yisong has a unique dialogue line with Gia Ishmael is because she's canonically dead in his mirror world, and, it's the same situation here, where Yisong is canonically dead in Gregor's mirror world. So obviously, one would think that since Project Moon added a voice line for a different identity, for a very similar reason, they would add another voice line for these characters, because it's basically the same thing. But I guess they just either didn't think about it or didn't want to for some reason. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It's just a little unfortunate that they left it out, I suppose. But anyways, we're going to be fighting a couple of abnormalities here, and the first one is obviously the Fey Lantern. Pretty much we're just going to be fighting the abnormalities from Canto 9, minus Shock Centipede, because, I don't know, Shock Centipede is lame. But anyways, Fey Lantern is actually kind of really annoying, let me just say that much. Because not only does he actually apply quite a bit of bleed, and that makes it very dangerous, especially for Faust, because she's also doing self-damage to herself constantly, and so yeah, it's not the greatest in that regard. But also, he's just really annoying because it makes it basically impossible for Gregor to take full advantage of his entire kit. Specifically, I mean, like, if he uses his skill 3 when an enemy has 3 lamp, or not lamp, it's the dazzle status effect, then he gets a plus coin power boost on the next turn. Which is very, very powerful, but unfortunately, Fey Lantern never actually gives him it, because by nature of how Fey Lantern works, it constantly keeps shifting every other turn between its exposed phase and its fairy phase. And pretty much every single time I did this fight, Gregor was always the one who gets, what's it called? Dazzled, I guess, first. So it's literally impossible for him to actually attack in the fairy phase for pretty much every single attempt I tried. And because of that, even though the dazzle status effect lingers on the enemy, since it applies to the core instead of the specific part, so it doesn't ever actually get cleansed. He only ever ends up attacking the Fey Lantern when it has like 2 or 1 of the dazzle effect. And it's fine, that's fine, because pretty much the only effect that he gets if he's attacking it at 3 is the plus coin power, so we're not actually missing that much damage as a result, but it is still... we're still missing something, and it's quite unfortunate, to say the least. And unfortunately, right here, yeah, we get unlucky with Faust, and she dies to an AoE unbreakable coin because of all of the self-burn combined with the bleed damage. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why, like, Ardor Blossom Faust isn't that good of an identity, to be honest. I mean, she's fun, but she is designed to die at the end of the day. And she's kind of really good at it, especially if you give her multiple skill slots. Because it's kind of like she either struggles to build up burn on herself because she can only get burn count on herself with her skill 2. So if you just don't have a lot of skills to use in the first place, then she can't really build up burn on herself. But if you give her a second skill slot, then it becomes actually significantly easier to the point where she just dies a lot, to be honest. And that's kind of counterintuitive because if she has multiple skill slots, that automatically means that you are not using backup units, and therefore when she dies, nobody is there to replace her. So it's very weird, I'd say, how she both benefits from having multiple skill slots, but also doesn't want multiple skill slots because you can't have backup units then. But the next fight is the Wayward Passenger, who is substantially easier than pretty much every other fight that we're facing. Because his gimmick is substantially easier than both Fey Lantern and the next Abnormality who we're going to face. It also helps that most of our characters, like one of the big gimmicks here with his portals is that they are fatal to the sin type that their color represents. So the red one is fatal to Wrath, the yellow one is fatal to Sloth, and so on. And that's decent because most of our identities here actually do have skills that are those sin types. Both Yisong and Faust have Sloth, and then both Faust and Gregor have Wrath, and Gregor also has Gloom. So that's 3 of the 4 portals that we can deal with pretty easily. And then also Yisong does have a Gluttony skill as well, so technically speaking we could deal with all 4 of them, but then again, Yisong's Gluttony skill is his skill 3, which is a negative coin skill. And he's not the best at using it, let me just say that much. And it's because, like, his gimmick, Yisong's gimmick is that his sanity gain is inverse to everybody else's. If he wins a clash, he loses sanity. If he loses a clash, he gains sanity. And in theory, on paper, right, it works. Because since his skill 3 is a negative coin skill, it's basically saying if you win a clash with your skill 2 or skill 3, then you lose sanity to make your skill 3 more powerful. Or did I say skill 3? I meant to say skill 1. If you use your skill, if you win a clash with your skill 1 or skill 2, then you lose sanity to make your skill 3 do more damage. And that's good in theory. But then it introduces this whole RNG factor of basically him it's impossible to guarantee the fact that he actually does win a clash because he's constantly losing sanity if he wins a clash. And because of that, it just... he struggles to actually win a clash half the time. And so he ends up losing clashes, and then he gains sanity so that it's easier for him to win a clash the next turn. But then he's also got this problem where he doesn't have any scaling with his skill 2 or skill 1, so he just sits in this awkward area where he constantly keeps losing clashes, and then he just gains sanity, and his skill 3 does nothing. And then after he uses skill 3 too, it gives him a bunch of sanity back, so... yeah, it's like, on paper, he's decent, but in practice, his sanity is so inconsistent, it's basically useless. Anyways, we had to kill Faust. Well, technically we didn't have to kill her, but it's just... I don't know, it's more fun to actually use her gimmick and have her detonate than to just have her die to a random unbreakable coin at some point in the future, you know? Plus, it also, like, it becomes even harder for her to actually, like, keep going when she gets a lot of burn, because she's going to be sitting at, like, 1 HP, and the only way for her to lose burn on herself is to use her evade skill. But you can't really use her evade skill if you don't have max sanity, and, like, half the time it's like I'm struggling to win clashes because I can't use her skill 3, because her skill 3 will kill her. So her only actually good clashing skill is her skill 2, and, like, you don't have that half the time, so she just doesn't win clashes, gets too much burn on herself because she's forced to use her skill 1s, can't use her evade skill because her sanity is not high enough to make it consistent, and then, yeah, she just stacks up a max burn stack and dies due to her skill 3. Or an unbreakable coin. It's very cool. I love these identities. And the last fight is the Ebony Queen's Apple. We've been talking a lot about Faust and Yisong here. Gregor's been feeling a little left out, if I'm being completely honest, but that's a good thing, because this fight is the one where I can actually talk about him a bit more, because one of his biggest gimmicks is the fact that he kind of ignores speed, right? He's permanently stuck at 1 speed pretty much for the entire fight, no matter what. At least if you're playing him properly, that is. Which makes it so that he kind of ignores the Ebony Queen's own gimmick of inflicting bind on a bunch of people and keeping you at low speed. But as you can see here, it's like, it's actually not that good. Because in addition to, you know, him ignoring speed, if you're actually using his gimmick and applying Dazzle, it also gives him aggro, which makes it so that the Ebony Queen effectively only targets him. And that's really bad, because she actually inflicts a lot of bleed damage with all of her skills, and because she's basically minimizing everybody else's speed, they can't end up redirecting clashes, and so all of the attacks go into Gregor, and he just gets a ton of bleed damage on himself that you can do nothing about. So it's like, in theory, he's actually really good in this fight since he can ignore her gimmick, but it's like, at the same time, his aggro is killing him at the same time because of all the bleed damage. Fortunately, all you need to do is break the roots of the Ebony Queen, and then all of the bind she inflicts goes away immediately. So you definitely want to prioritize dealing with the roots as fast as possible so that you can get rid of the bind, and then you could actually start redirecting clashes away from Gregor at that point. Still not enough to save everybody, but it's good enough for now. And this time around, we're also playing with Faust a lot better. Specifically, we're not making her... It's like her skill 1 is the thing that gives her all of the burn. So you want to avoid using her skill 1 as much as possible, which isn't... It's not always possible. And yeah, right here, as you can see, there is an unbreakable coin AoE attack that I can do nothing about, and it will absolutely kill Gregor 100% of the time. And because Gregor is absolutely the MVP of this entire run, yeah, I gotta use Ira to save his ass. There is no other option, because he absolutely dies to that attack 100% of the time. And there goes Yisong, so... Genuinely, if I didn't use that, game over. I have to restart. And I don't want to restart, so... Why not use all the tools at my disposal? Technically speaking, this is a canon fight right now. Yisong dies, Gregor's alive, and Faust is on death's door. The only difference is it's the Ebony Queen doing it, and this is technically a normal breach. It goes to show that when you are dealing with an abnormality breach, the safest way to deal with it is to literally just gang up on them, which is pretty fitting considering that's the best way to deal with them in the Lobotomy Corporation game. The less agents you have to just gang up on an abnormality and beat them to death, the more will die in the end. Even your strongest agent wearing the wall level ego gear isn't enough. They obviously do the most damage, but they don't have enough health to survive the metric ton of bleed that the apple inflicts, unfortunately.
효율적인 대처로 개체를 꿰뚫었습니다. 참고로 기계는 입에 발린 말 따위 쉽게 하지 않아요. 다시 재생하겠지.
눈에 보이는 게 전부가 아니라든가 중요한 것은 눈에 보이지 않는다든가 뭐 그런 교훈을 의도한 건 아니야. 그냥 누구에게도 보이지 않을 나만의 한 방을 날려주고 싶었을 뿐이지.
And that's how I suppressed 3 abnormalities using only the LCE. They don't work together very well. I mean, the only ones that actually can work together are basically Faust and Gregor because they're both burn identities, but other than that, it's like, there's no reason to ever use these identities in a team together. I mean, obviously, they're completely different, so. Still pretty cool, though, that we have all 3 of them. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Goodbye.